So, welcome to the chapter 7, which is all about the non-renewable energy sources. So, in this topic, I am going to focus about the fossil fuels. How fossil fuels form, and what are the different types of fossil fuels and their different processes. And also, I'm going to talk about the different issues that is related to fossil fuels. So let us define first what is fossil fuels. So fossil fuels are hydrocarbon containing materials formed naturally in the earth crust from the remains of dead plants and animals. So fossil fuels are energy sources that originated from biological materials that is composed of hydrocarbons, which is hydrogens and carbons. We all know naman that organisms are mainly composed of hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. So when the animals died, so ang oxygen of ang nitrogen ang mawala. Then ang mahabili na lang is the carbon and hydrogen, which will made your fossil fuels. So there are three types of fossil fuels. These are the coal, oil, and the natural gas. So these three have similarities and also differences. So ang differences ano nilang tulo is the materials that they needed during their formation and also the matter that they belongs to. Of course, ang coal kay sa solid, and then ang oil sa liquid, and then ang gas sa gas. So how do coal form? So coal is made up of remnants of plants. A sedimentary rock, specifically a bioplastic sedimentary rock. So over 300 million years ago, plant material began collecting underwater, initiating decay, forming a spongy mass of organic matter. So, in simple words, ang coal is made up of plant base. So, ang iyahang formation, it all starts with a swamp on the edge of a sedimentary basin, such as lagoon or a lake.
Next, tectonic activity or other natural phenomenon like earthquake or flood that is caused by storm will raises the level of water covering it and killing the vegetation.
So this may happen over a long period of time and repeatedly. So those plant debris accumulates and is buried under layers of mud and sand in a process known as sedimentation. And then sedimentation will happen for over a long period of time, which will cover the plant debris and slow down the decomposition. Next is the pressure combined with heat that will slowly cook the plant debris into coal. Cook in a way that as plant debris is exposed to heat and pressure, so chemical processes are happening. So these are the different coal that we have. So we have lignite, subbituminous, bituminous, and anthracite. So next, let us talk about the formation of oil and natural gas. Oil and natural gas probably originated from microscopic marine organisms that accumulated on the ocean floor and were covered by sediments. So oil and natural gas are both made up of hydrocarbons and their formation is greatly similarity. So ang formation sa oil and natural gas kay halos sabay ra gani ang mahitabo sa ilang formation. The main difference between the two is their composition. Lahi ang amount sa carbon and hydrogen between oil and gas. So, the formation of oil and natural gas starts with the death of living organisms. If they die, it is either they're eaten by predators like scavengers and bacteria, or it oxidizes. So, technically, ang body sa living organisms when exposed to water and air kay magraras. And then, ang maka-escape ani nga process will be then the precursor for oil and natural gas. And then, ang katong nakatakas sa katong nga process will be then transported to the depths of the body of water that will sink to the bottom of oceans or lakes. And then diri, it will be partly preserved, just like what happened to the process of coal. So diri mag-slow down ang decomposition of
The main
organisms
difference between
as
the
it
two
is
is
mixed
their
with clay,
composition.
sand, and even dead
Lahi ang
microorganisms
amount sa,
like planktons.
carbon
As
and
it is
hydrogen
partially
between
preserved
oil
and mixed with
and
sediments, eventually it will harden, and this hardened material, which is the mixture of dead organic and inorganic matter, will be then called as source trap. As the name implies, so mo na ni ang atong mahimong source sa oil and gas. At the desired depth and temperature, kerosene starts to release oil. So, the deeper the source trap is, the hotter it will becomes to the point na mag-release na ni siya og oil. And if it will continuously increases its temperature of oil, gas will be then produced. So, in a simple explanation, gas is produced if oil will then evaporate after constant exposure to heat. So, other things that we must consider during the formation of oil and gas is the presence of reservoir rock and the cap rock. So, reservoir rock is a porous, permeable rock that is capable of containing oil and gas deposits. While ang cap rock is mo ni ang takop sa reservoir rock, and then without sa cap rock, ang imuhang gideposit kay mo sip out rock. So, in this illustration, on the right side, mo ni ang reservoir rock, di ba, nasa ubos. And then, while nagproduce og oil, while nagproduce ang imuhang source rock, so sa reservoir rock, dinhi mabutang ang imuhang gas and oil. So, sa ubos, kay ang oil, while sa igbaw is ang gas. So, capable ang reservoir rock na magkanang contain sa gas and oil because it is flammable. So, now, if reservoir rock ra na taman ang illustration, your gas and oil will be sipped out. So, another thing that we must consider in the process of the formation of oil and gas is the presence of the cap rock. So, ang kaning cap rock is impermeable. So, if ang imuhang reservoir rock is permeable, ang cap rock is impermeable. So, as the name implies, mo ni ang imuhang, takip sa imuhang reservoir rock. So, if wala ang cap rock, your deposits will just sip out. You will not have enough for mining. So, as I've said, ang cap rock mo ni ang impermeable, ang reservoir rock is the permeable. So, cap rock will give a tight seal so that adtura sa reservoir rock mo contain ang gas o ang oil that will be needed for your energy. So, there is no little amount of oil and gas dinhi sa cap rock. So, ang oil and gas naa siya sa reservoir rock. So, we are now done with the process of formation of the different types of fossil fuels. So, we will going to move on the next topic, which is the different issues related to fossil fuels. So, unsa man day ang mga issues nga na related sa fossil fuels? So, fossil fuels has a lot of advantages and disadvantages throughout worldwide. So, issues related to the use of fossil fuels. So, fossil fuels primarily supplies 80% of world's commercial energy. So, imagine that. Fossil fuels is a non-renewable energy source and it supplies 80% of world's commercial energy. So, by imagining these things, so dako jud kay kanang nagamit ang fossil fuels. So, dako sa kayo siya o kanang negative effects ato So, first, let us identify first the issues of coal. So, coal is the most abundant fossil fuels that is primarily used for generating electricity. So, dinhi sa coal, as I discussed, there are different types There are four categories of coal: the lignite, subbituminous, bituminous coal, and the anthracite. Take note that most references wouldn't include peat as a type of coal. For them, peat is a clump of plant debris and other sediments. However, just like any other type of coal, peat is still useful, but the energy it gave is not sufficient. So, less ang carbon nga gihatag sa peat compare sa other coal. So, less than 60% ang carbon sa peat, and then 65 to 70% ang carbon sa lignite. And then, 70 to 76% naman ang carbon sa bituminous coal, while almost 86% ang carbon sa bituminous coal. And then, sa anthracite, kay 86 to 98% pure carbon ang nasa yaha, while the remaining is the hydrogen. Coal is used in industrial applications, mainly in steel production, where it is transformed into coke and key component in smelting iron ore. Coal is born in power plants to produce steam, which drives turbines that generate electricity. So, what are the extraction methods of coal? So, there are duha nga ka-method sa coal. The first one is the surface mining, which also be called strip mining, and the second one is underground mining. As you can see sa illustrations, ang kaning surface mining is nara sa ibabaw. This is the process of removing material on the top of vein, is efficient but destructive. So, ang kaning surface mining is dili kani siya kanang lisod, pero destructive, because if magkuan ka og surface mining, you are going to cut down trees mangyud. So, sa kaning underground mining naman is kanang dili kay siya makakuan og disturbance sa kanang surface, pero costly siya and dangerous, because ang underground mining sa ground ka mag-mine. So, as you can see sa illustration, di ba, nasa kanang ubos. Next is the transportation and pollution. Coal is bulky and causes some transport problems. And also, mining creates dust pollution. Burning of coal releases air pollutions that can lead to health problems and safety issues. So, coal mining leads to a lot of accidents that will kill many miners each year. And also, daghan po ang mga miners na nagsuffer from lung disease. It is a respiratory condition that results from the accumulation of fine coal dust particles in the miner's lungs. So, over 8% of miners who work 25 or more years in mines tested positive for black lung cancer. So, just imagine, ang kaning mining, as I've heard mangyud sa uban, is dako-dako nagsweldo, but they don't think nga ang mga possible nga mahitabo bitaw sa mga miners. So, next is the transportation issues. So, coal is bulky. So, ang ship nagay problem sa pag-shipping. So, generally, the coal can be used most economically near where it is produced. So, ang kaning coal kay dako kay ni siya og expense sa construction and then sa maintaining sa trucks, as well as the cost of the energy required to move the long strings of railroad cars. So next is the environmental issues. So, it can cause landscape disturbance. So, surface mining disrupts the landscape as the topsoil and overburden are moved to access the coal. Coal mining also disrupts ecosystem, destroys habitats, and alters landscape.
As you can see sa illustration, ang A is the unreclaimed strip mine and B is the reclaimed strip mine. So this illustration shows a large area that has been surface mined with little effort to reclaim the land, ang kanang A. Dayon, ang kanang B is an example of effective surface mining reclamation. So, ang kanang site nga gi-mining kay gitamnan siya og balik nga that will provide wildlife habitat. So, it is important sa mga different industries nga if mining sila nga ilahasang balikan bitaw og tanom so that ang katong mga affected nga mga wildlife animals nasad sila mapuy-an og balik. Next issues is the subsidence. So when you look at the illustration presented, ang kanang letter A kay di ba nagmining sila and that is the underground mining. So when the coal is removed, it leaves a space underground. So it is a typical for underground mines to collapse and cause the land above to be subside. Diba? As you can see sa illustration sa B, kanang mga butas-butas din ha ni subside ang uban nga land. Muna ang resulta sa mga nag-underground mine. So another issues is the acid mine drainage. As you can see sa picture presented, di ba ang drainage kay nahimo na siya og red. So it is also one of the issues sa pagmining. So another issues sa coal is the air pollution. So dust is generated by mining and transportation of coal. The large amounts of coal dust is released in the atmosphere at the loading and unloading sites can cause local air pollution problems. These pollutants contributes to smog, acid rain, and respiratory illnesses.
So we are now done with the issues related to coal. So next, we're going to move on the issues that is related to oil and gas.
So oil use. So worldwide, about 30% of energy consumed comes from the oil. As you can imagine that 30% daw ang gi-consume nga oil worldwide. So oil, primarily crude oil or the petroleum, is a vital resource with diverse application across numerous industries. It is well known use as a fuel, powering vehicles, generating electricity, and providing. However, oil's importance extends beyond far from fuel. So, ang kaning oil pod na advantages and disadvantages. Ang naka-advantage aning oil kay use ni siya as fuel to power vehicles, generating electricity and providing heat. The most prominent use of oil is in transportation, of course. Oil can be used as the gasoline and diesel fuel that can be refined from crude oil that will power the vast majority sakay sa mga sakyanan like cars, trucks, and then sa barko, and then airplanes that is used worldwide. Also, oil plays a significant role in electricity generation and home heating. So, gamit kayo ang oil sa. But then, oil has also disadvantages. So, first, oil can cause impacts to the climate change.
So we are now done with the issues related.
So, before ta mo adto sa disadvantage sa oil, ato sa discuss kung giun sa pagkuha sa oil. So, oil has 3 recovery methods. These are the primary, secondary, and tertiary. Sa primary recovery methods, if water or gas pressure associated with the oil is great enough, the oil is forced to the surface when a well is drilled. And then the secondary recovery method, which include pumping water or gas into the well to drive the oil out of the pores in the rock. These techniques typically result in up to 40% of the oil being extracted. So as the oil prices increase, more expensive and aggressive recovery methods become economical. So ang ikatulong nga recovery method sa oil will include pumping steam into the well to lower the viscosity of the oil and allow it to flow more readily. So other techniques include more aggressive pumping of gases or chemicals into wells. So ang kaning tulo ka method kay mahal and are only used if the price of oil is high and the likelihood of getting significant additional production is great. So as you can see, as the illustration presented, on the left is the offshore drilling, of course. Ang oil kay nasa dagat. And then, money, ang pagkuan sa secondary recovery. So next is the issues related to oil. First is the transportation of oil. Giunsa pag-transfer sa oil. So, it can be through pipelines and oil tankers. Primarily sa kanang mga barko bitaw nga mga tankers. So, dinhi kasagaran mo occur ang leaks sa kanang oil. So, next is the natural gas uses. So, its major uses are in electricity generation, heating, and industrial processes. It is also used in heating. Many homes and businesses use natural gas furnaces, water heaters, and other appliances for heating and hot water. The issues related to natural gas are the health impacts and environmental impacts. So, sa health impacts, natural gas can cause air pollution that releases pollutants like nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide that will contribute to smog, acid rain, and respiratory problems. Sa environmental impacts is the climate change. While natural gas releases less carbon dioxide than coal, methane leaks during production and distribution significantly contribute to global warming.
So now we are done discussing about the process of the different formation of the different fossil fuels and the issues that is related to the fossil fuels. So in conclusion, fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas are good because they give us a lot of energy to power our cars, homes, and factories. And we already have lots of ways to get them and use the energy on our everyday life. However, using fossil fuels makes the earth warmer, causing problems like stronger storms and rising sea levels. Mainly because fossil fuels contribute to the greenhouse effects. So they also pollute the air and water, making people sick. That is because fossil fuels are not made up naturally, and they will eventually run out. So that's why we need to find better ways to get energy that don't harm us, and that is the renewable energy sources that will be discussed to the next group.